Hey guys, it's Tanyelle. I don't know what's going on out there. My life, y'all. My life. Hey guys, it's Tanyelle and I am here to do another adoption chat. So if you are new here, November is Adoption Awareness Month and I have just been spending this month talking about adoption, sharing our experiences, and just talking about different topics. So if you are interested in adoption, grab a drink and keep watching. For those of you who have been here and along for this journey, welcome back to the conversation. Don't forget to grab your drink and let's talk adoption. So first guys, forgive me for the stuffiness. I am literally battling a cold that is like driving me insane and won't go away. Second of all, I have my hot chocolate with whipped cream today because we are going to be talking about the struggles of adoption. I already had to take a drink just saying it, just talking about it. So today's topic is struggles. I kind of share a little bit of our struggles in our transition topic where I talked about transitioning with adoption. So I want to say that everybody's struggles look different. What some people consider a struggle, other people may not consider a struggle. What some people struggle with, others may not struggle with. So every adoption situation, every family is different, and you know, everybody's struggle is different as well. So for us, our struggles kind of varied. You know, with our first adoption, I kind of talked about how we struggled early on with just the adjustment of having another toddler and his quirks, you know, like him waking up early in the morning and literally screaming in the bed. So those type of struggles we had very early on. As time progressed, our struggles changed with our first adoption. One of the things that we struggled with was when school started. So we are a homeschooling family, and because he has a sister that is the exact same age as him, they started school together. And in my mind, I was thinking that they were going to be on the same level, you know, learning at the same pace, maybe not literally at the same pace, but pretty close to one another. We hadn't seen anything that would have said that that wasn't going to be the case. We were told that there were no special needs, that it was a healthy pregnancy, healthy delivery with his birth mother. So we kind of just thought, okay, we're just going to rock and roll with this thing. We quickly learned that that was not the case. So our son, he struggled a lot throughout school, which became a struggle for me as his mother and teacher. I was not sure what was going on. A lot of times I thought he knew the information and just didn't want to do the work, or was just lazy, or just rebelling and being defiant and just didn't want to do it, was kind of what I thought. He, on the outside, and this is one of the things with adoption, children can appear, you know, appearance as though there are no special needs, nothing going on. That can be an outer appearance. Meanwhile, they could be struggling with things emotionally, as well as mentally, as well as you know, educationally. They could be struggling with things, and so that is kind of what we were dealing with. So the struggle was kind of me trying to force him to do these things, you know, force him to root count, or force him to know how to write his letters properly, and all of these things. And so eventually I shared this with his pediatrician, just telling her some of my struggles. and she suggested that we have him tested. And I was immediately offended by that, because I kind of thought, why do you feel like he needs to be tested? Is it because he's adopted? Do you feel like, you know, he should be tested because he's adopted? My mama bear defense mode went up. And she explained that, you know, these type of things, developmental delays, were common in children who were adopted, no matter what age you may adopt them at, that was a common thing to be seen. So, you know, with a little bit of reassurance, with me calming myself down and having a little bit of common sense and all of that stuff, we decided to get him tested, and did find out that he struggled with some developmental delays. So that personal struggle turned into an environmental struggle, because now we know that as his parents, and we don't readily share that information with people. We don't just kind of say, hey, this is our son and he has developmental delays. I mean, who does that? We don't do that. Maybe somebody else would do that. So because of that, people see this healthy, fit, tall, big boy and expect him to be able to do things that another child of his age, his size, his caliber to be able to do. They expect him to be able to do things or understand things or be at a certain point, and he's not there. And because we homeschool, a lot of it is finger pointing at us, that's the reason he can't do it, or we're not making him or forcing him to do the things that he should be able to do. Whereas this, we just understand what his capabilities and limitations are, and we don't push and we don't force. That struggle that we had before is no longer a struggle for us. So I hope that kind of makes sense and fit together. The current struggle with adopting, having an adoptive child, is people projecting onto that child what they think that child should be doing, or how you should be raising that child, or what you should be doing. And if you're not sharing with them that child's background, or that their story, or what's going on with them, then people just make these assumptions and kind of come after you, so to speak, about your child. So that has been a struggle. It may be a struggle for others with adoption. Another one of our struggles, when we brought our older kids home, a lot of people thought we were going to struggle with our 11-year-old with changing her name. That was not one of our struggles. She readily changed her name, was happy to do it, and that did not become a struggle with us. We also did not struggle with them calling us mom and dad, or mommy and daddy as they call us. That was also not a struggle. That kind of happened naturally and pretty quickly. We did not force that on them. We kind of gave them the option, told them they could make up names for us, but the younger ones right away started calling us mommy and daddy. And I think maybe 2 weeks after being home, our older daughter quickly, she called my husband daddy first, and then eventually started calling me mommy. So that was not a struggle for us. Homeschooling, the younger two were not in school yet. However, the oldest was in school. And honestly, one of the reasons that we were chosen as the family for them was because we homeschooled. And the social workers felt that homeschooling for our older daughter was going to be beneficial. Like, they wanted that for her. So they advocated that we be able to homeschool her from the day she came home, because typically in foster care, you are not allowed to homeschool your child. So that first 6 months is considered foster care. And normally you are not allowed to homeschool. However, they advocated for that, and we were able to homeschool her. We already homeschooled all our other kids. We knew the younger two were going to be home. We didn't plan on putting them in daycare. So she ultimately would have been the only one going to school, which creates separation, and we didn't want that. And we felt that, and they felt that that was the best thing for her. So if you watched my previous video, then you know how they came home was already like craziness. So imagine being 11, you come to visit this family, you find out you're not going back to be able to say bye to your friends or all your other people, and now you're going to be homeschooled. So you can imagine that there was some struggle with that. Not from the standpoint of her being defiant or just rebellious. That's just not her personality. She's not that type of child. But it showed up in other ways, in other struggles throughout our family. You know, little subtle kind of things that she would do became struggles for us as a family. So, you know, it just kind of showed up in ways of, I'll try to think of something that's not too personal, because like I said, I don't like to share our kids' stories too much. But I'll kind of share this one with her taking food or snacks or things like that. She would do that all the time, and that became a huge struggle for us. And it was more so because we would tell her not to do it, or she couldn't have it, and she would do it anyway. So not a defiant behavior, but a very clear, I am fighting against what you guys are telling me to do, and this is something that I can control and I can do, whereas I can't control these things over here. And I hope that that makes sense, my explanation of that, of explaining how that worked. And so that was a huge struggle and a huge battle for us for a very, very, very long time. Very long time. So that, and then making up stories. So we had to deal with that a lot. Because for us, lying is one of our biggest things. And even from the embellishment of stories, we consider that as lying. The reason why we feel like we can't protect you as your parent if you lie. So the embellishment of stories was a huge struggle for us as well. And we really had to work on that. Really had to help her understand why it was so important that that was not okay to do. So those things became struggles. We later start to see, we didn't really see a whole lot of struggles from our younger two at first. I will say after I got pregnant with 11 and even gave birth to 11 is when we started seeing struggles in our daughter. And her struggles showed up as, you know, bullying her younger siblings, or fighting her younger siblings, or saying things about, you know, my other family, or I had, you know, my other mom, in this, in a, not in a, because we welcome them to talk about that, but in a more like teasing kind of way of the other kids. And it was almost becoming her separating herself from us. So after spending some time with her and talking to her, what we learned and realized was, by her being present for me being pregnant, and there being a lot of talk about him being in my belly and the other babies being in my belly, and he came out of my belly and they came out of my belly. Well, her struggle was, what was I in your belly? I obviously was not in your belly. I've never seen any baby pictures of me. So the thing was, I wasn't in your belly. I haven't seen baby pictures of myself. And so we had to navigate through those emotions with her, and explain to her what that looked like, and how her birth mother really loved her, and how she grew in my heart, and all of that kind of stuff, to begin to handle those struggles that were starting to arise. So that was becoming a struggle for us, just the teasing and things like that with her siblings and the bullying of her siblings. The other struggle is our kids not having access to their birth families. We would absolutely love for our kids to have a relationship with their birth family, to know their history, to know, you know, this whole side of them, for us to know them, for us to know their history. Because one of the struggles with adoption is not knowing your child's history, not knowing their medical history. That is huge. A struggle you'll run into is you go to the doctor, they give you this paperwork and they want you to fill out all this information. They want information about the pregnancy, information about the birth, information about, you know, relatives, and we can't give them any of that. We don't know any of that information, and then we leave it blank, or we write, you know, on the paper that they were adopted. Get in the room and the doctor will still ask us all of these questions, and we're like, we got to bring up the word again. Now we got to point out once again how our children are different and they were adopted, and we don't know this information, which is a struggle. And so we wish that we knew that information to be able to give to them so that they would know this information, but we don't have it, which is a struggle just in general. Another struggle, kind of piggybacking off of that struggle, is not having baby pictures or any type of video footage when you're adopting an older child. We can't share, you know, oh, here you are when you were 9 months, or here you were when you were, you know, 2 weeks old, or I remember when you first started walking, or I remember your first word, or any of those things. We can't share that with them, and everybody wants to know that. Like, everybody desires to know that information. Everybody wants a TBT of when they were, you know, 2 or 3 years old. Who doesn't want a Throwback Thursday picture to post? And we can't provide that for them. And so that is a struggle, because when you have biological children and they have, you know, rows of photo albums of all these pictures and all this video footage, and they want to look at it and you want to talk about it, and your adopted child has to kind of be subjected to that, and there's no way you can ever fill that void or heal that wound that they are feeling. So struggling between navigating being sensitive to their feelings, but also sharing family memories with your biological children, which kind of leads into the next struggle, which is family memories. So, you know, a lot of times we deal with, our kids will be like, oh, I remember when we went here, you guys weren't, you guys weren't here yet. And they say it so passively that I don't think they understand how that can be like a scar, you know, to our other children, because our first adopted child was along for mostly everything. He's been along for that ride. So even though he was adopted, it's not the same as our other children who, you know, were much older when they came home. So anytime you're talking about a family memory, or being like, oh, I remember when, or when we lived at our old house, and the other kids are kind of sitting there like, well, where, you know, our younger ones will sometimes say, were we there? Because they know they came older, so they have some memory, but they don't really have a lot of memory. So they kind of toggle. I don't know if that makes sense. They were 3 and 4 when they came home. So our 3-year-old, he doesn't really have a lot of memories, but he know I wasn't here when I was a baby, because there are no baby pictures. And our the one that was 4-year-old, she has very like faint memories of living in another home. So those are some things that you don't really think about or consider when you're thinking about struggles with adoption. A lot of people think about, you know, this defiant and rebellious child who's gonna come into your home and, you know, just, you know, really fight back and really push back and just be all these major huge problems in all of that, you know, or they're gonna come in your room at night and slit your throat, because that's what the news reports about adopted kids, or those type of things. Like, those are the things that people think about when they think about struggles. They don't think about the other type of struggles, you know, the things that you can't or ever be able to provide to your adoptive child, mentally or emotionally for them. So now, don't get me wrong, we have had some throwdown type struggles, you guys. Like, for real, we've had some serious struggles. So I don't want it to sound like there haven't been some major struggles within our adoption, because there has, but we just opt not to share some of those. They're a little personal and part of our kids' stories that we leave personal, and for them to maybe one day share on their own. But I didn't want it to sound like we didn't have those major type of struggles. I wanted to kind of share and focus on the struggles that a lot of people don't think about when they are adopting. And of course, if you are adopting a you know, a newborn baby, you won't have those struggles of not having pictures or memories or things like that. But there will be those struggles of, well, let me see the pictures of me when I was in your belly, or those pregnancy pictures, or those kind of things. And then if you do have a biological child along the way, then the struggle becomes, well, I wasn't born in your belly, where was I born? And all of those questions can arise. So even with, you know, having a newborn adoption, there are still those struggles and still that part of history that you can never give to your child, especially if you have a closed adoption, which comes along with its own struggles, because you don't have access to that family and to that history. So those are just things you don't think about. And of course, with an older adoption, those are going to be your struggles. Like, you just cannot give that child that. So no matter, you know, what we do, have created new memories that nobody had been to, nobody had done, and so now they all have done that together, and it's all a first for all of them. So if you guys have any questions about struggles, or if I did not answer a question in this video, please feel free to leave them below. If you have not subscribed and joined the family, please hit that red button. If you're already part of the non-traditional family, then you are the MVP. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.